Hi everybody, Linda Carroll here from Gather of Great Things Studio, and I'd like you to join me in another collage with me. What started all of this was I found in my studio yesterday as I was cleaning it up this image of this young girl, and I put her aside but I started thinking about her this morning and thought, well, after I finish my errands and everything today, I'm going to start on a new collage. So she was the first thing that I pulled, and as I was going through my scrap box, the colors that started calling to me were the pinks and the oranges. So I found a number of pieces that worked with her and with the image. I thought originally it was going to be a lot of neutral tones from the colors that are in her image, but the pinks and the oranges started to come out of the scrap box. And then I found these eyes and I thought, oh, they're just great. They would work really well. I saw a pair of bluebirds yesterday afternoon. They usually don't stay here near my studio for some reason, but they always seem to stop by this time of year, and they eat a little bit at the feeders out back and then they go on their way. So I wanted to remember that they did stop by again this year. So one of the little bluebirds appear. I'm not really sure of all the stories that are going to come out of this this collage. I've been researching a lot and reading a lot about Medusa from my last collage, and so I think kind of emotionally and everything, I'm still stuck back there working on that piece. But I really like the images in this. I think there's something going on with these two young girls that I made this first image with her hand raised, gloved hand, which is a piece that will be on one of my collage sheets. I did that first, and I really liked the way that looked on the page. And then in my stash, I found this girl out of a children's book with a gloved hand in a very similar position. So she just had to end up on this page, and the colors really went with this this organic image behind her. And I also liked the city. I don't know if that's going to stay yet or not, but I have a feeling it will. This one is a little bit different from my last collage, and then I have a lot of curvy shapes around the border. And when I saw this image, which I think came out of an old National Geographic, it looks very ghostly in the background. So anyway, I'm sure as I continue to work on this, some stories will start coming out of it. And I found two stamps in my stamp bin that the colors worked perfectly with the images in the border. And this one says learning never ends, which I absolutely believe, and the other one says letters preserve memories. And it's something that I really miss, is getting a letter in the mail with pictures or just letters. And one thing I found yesterday as I was cleaning up my studio, I found a folder that I had kept all the letters that family and friends had sent to me through the years. And when the internet came along and email became prevalent, the letters kind of started to disappear. So I'm really glad that I kept those images, and I can go back and touch them and feel them and read the words that my family wrote and my friends. So I think we're going to start pasting this down or gluing this down, and then go on from there. I like the flow of the piece. I love the colors, and although I may move some things around as I'm doing the pasting down, we'll just see what happens. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit and play some music, and I'll be back with you after I finish gluing. On the image itself. So I always try to transform it in some way. Like this image, I'm not sure if this came from Raw Pixel. I've had it in my stash for a while on my computer, so I'm not exactly sure where it came from, but it's in my public domain file. So I've changed the eyes here, and I put my number 23 down here, and I'll do detail work around the glove to change it even more. The only other images on this one that came from the computer. This was an image from I think it was some kind of a sea creature. And this area here and right down here is from a Japanese woodblock print that I went in and changed the colors and made the clarity higher in the line work and everything. But all of the rest of these images came from magazines and children's books, except this was out of an old advertisement from a magazine, probably from the 20s and 30s. I'm not sure. I've had it around for a while, but everything else came from magazines. And as I was gluing this piece down, I realized it was on a cover of one of my music books when I was learning to play piano back when I probably started when I was about 8 or 9. So that book's been around for a while. So let me go in with my Posca pen, and I'm just gonna, hopefully you can see this, I'm just gonna start outlining the eyes a little bit. And I like the sleepy look in her eyes. Kind of look Egyptian. And I'm gonna add some eyelashes. At the top and at the bottom. It's been a really rainy day here at the beach, and started, I'm not sure, probably around 4 o'clock in the morning with thunderstorms that woke me up, and thunder and lightning, and so, and it's been raining on and off all day. I'm just kind of outlining my eyeballs. You know, most of the time I don't include the eyebrows in my creatures, but with this one I think the pink kind of softened the eyebrows a bit, so I kind of like that. And I'm gonna go in with, I think, my distress marker. Now, a lot of times this distress marker will pick up the paint on a slick surface. It doesn't seem to be doing it on this one. But I'm just going in and adding some green to her eyes. And I'm going to make the pupils a little bit bigger. She looks so very innocent in this. think I'm going to add a little bit of bling to her eyelashes on the outer edge, just to make her eyes stand out a little bit more. Okay. So I want to do some changing down here in this area as well, and kind of, these were actually the eyes originally on this little girl. I had found two images, one on the front of the cover of the music book, and then one was on the back cover of the music book. So I'm going to define these eyes a little bit more. Kind of look like cat eyes. We have a sometimes cat who lives with us. He lives with us sometimes. He belongs to, or did belong to, my next door neighbor, but he doesn't let him in anymore. And we have coyotes around here, and so one of my neighbor on the other side has a bed for him on her front porch, and I bring him in, and he'll sleep in the house and eat. But he's been an outdoor cat for such a long time that he can't keep him in. He has to go out. So we were worried about him because he didn't show up for 2 days. But he came straggling back today, a little thinner than when he left. And my neighbor called me this morning and she said, well, Taco's back. So I was glad to hear that. But what that reminded me of was his eyes are this. He's a marmalade cat, and his eyes are the same color as this, the eyes on this girl. And I've never had a cat with eyes that color. So I just went in and put a little bit of red on her lips and a little bit of line work there. I think I'm going to bring up the nose just a little bit too. It's kind of soft and okay. She looks a little bit like Elizabeth Montgomery from Bewitched from a long time ago. I really like this hat band on her, but you know, it kind of reminds me of a halo. So let me see. If I go in with my color pencil and go over the top of this. What happens? It's darkening a little bit, but I don't think it's enough. Go in with the Posca pen. And see what happens. is working in the background, and I noticed as I was working on this side that there's blue in the background of this little image that the hand is holding. So I think that is kind of a little synchronicity. I really like that way that complements the background here. And I think I'll probably go in and make the edges around the image just a little bit darker than the background blue. That should help the face come even farther forward on that little image. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the Hi everybody, Linda, and we're back with a collage with me. I've been working on the background of this collage and finished up doing all of my shading that I like to do around the edges of the objects and around the border. I also went in and with my black Posca pen and outlined her hair and finished connecting the outlines around her face and arm and the gloved hand here. I decided last night that one of the main features of this little collage piece is the bluebird, and I didn't like the bird that I had, so I found another image and went in and did some painting over top of it with blue. I added a red breast and little red on the cheek, highlights in the eye, and I started adding some details with the black Posca pen, just to make him stand out a little bit better. And I like this one's face a lot better, and he is perched on the girl's little shoulder there. I finished her halo here, and I think what was a little girl has become a symbol of the divine feminine, and I really like the way the image turned out. May still have a little bit of work to do on the hair. I'm not really quite sure. I'll probably go in and put some higher lights in it than now. It's a little bit too dark for me, but this whole image kind of became, well, it started talking to me about the feminine and the divine feminine, and how the voice of women is now being heard more, and that they are coming into, and I think she is starting to feel it, coming into her own power, and that she does have a voice, and she does see things as they are, and she does remember how things were, having been brought up in the 50s and 60s. when things were really beginning to change for women. The culture looked at women much different than it does today. And I'm not a feminist. I don't consider myself a feminist. However, I do consider myself to be very spiritual, and I do consider the feminine, the divine feminine, those feminine qualities of nurturing and caring and loving and understanding and patience are something to be really revered in the world. And a lot of times those qualities have been shunned or not honored, and I think that these things are starting to really come out in my artwork, and I'm really just beginning to see that now. My last journal was about, I called them my dancing divas, and as I'm moving forward into this journal, they're moving forward too. They're maturing. Even though this is a young girl, she has the look about her of a more mature woman. This figure here in the background, which I'm turning into more of a ghostly image, using the white Stabilo, and I really wanted to knock back the color here and make the entire image more subtle. And I'm not really sure what part of the story she is. I'm sure it will become more obvious to me as I continue to work on this. But she may be the voice of women whose voice had been somewhat repressed. Voices of women in the not too distant past. And she's still hovering around, though. That, you know, those old habits and those old beliefs are very difficult to break and break away from and transform into something that's more positive. So when you're working with the Stabilo crayons, especially on a shiny surface, you can go in and kind of blend them with your finger and they won't rub off as easily. So I'm using the white, and then I'm going in with the blue and bringing the blue in from the background to make her look a little bit more wistful and kind of floating back there in the ethers, maybe. She was standing out a little bit too much, and although she's still there, I wanted her much more subtle than she was. And so I'm just going in with the blue and working that blue over top of the shadows that were in the image. And I'm not doing any really sharp lines in this. You know, I want the details to kind of fade into or fade away into the image. So the story is starting to evolve for me here as I'm working on the collages and doing the embellishments on it. I have to confess, I think a lot of my journal work is very much therapeutic, and I end up working out issues and things in my artwork. I always have. And they become more meaningful to me as I'm working on them. So you can take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, and you know, just watch this for the techniques. But for me, the story that begins to evolve in my artwork and in my collages is very important to me. So I've made her a bit more subtle in the background, blending with the white. And I like that a lot more than it appeared before. I also went in her, this began to look more like a hand crocheted cap than a sea creature. So I went in and shaded in between a lot of these holes with the black Posca pen, and I started to give the hat or cap or headdress a lot more depth and dimension, which I thought was really nice. And then I think the next thing I'm going to do is work down here in this area, and these lines are just so free, and I love the motion in them. So I want to go in and actually make them more, I want more motion, I want more movement down here. And then I want to go in this area also and make that movement more free. It's so defined in these curves here, and I really think that they needs a little bit more freedom. I like that a lot better. I'm not exactly sure I like these letters over here. So I think I'm going to go in with the Posca pen and kind of lighten these up. It'll probably take a couple coats of the Posca pen to really delete them totally, but I really didn't like the way that looked. Maybe I can put a couple strokes in. So I like that better. I like that feeling of freedom much better in those lines. I looked up the symbolism of the bluebird. You know, you've always heard the bluebird of happiness, which indeed that's what the bluebird signifies, is joy and happiness. And I was thinking about my word for the year, which is embrace. And I was thinking about this entire piece of artwork last night, and the phrase that came to me was embrace the joy. And even though, as I was talking about this and how, you know, the lives of women have changed as through the last 60 years of my life, there is one thing that is so important, and that is always remember that there is joy in the world. Even though there are so many things happening in the world that I just don't like to dwell upon or think about, for me, one of the most important things is to embrace and celebrate the joy that is available and that we can find in the world. So I'm going to, somewhere in this image, I'm going to put the words embrace the joy. And I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to put that. But as I look at this, I really like the contrast between these really free lines here and then this, you know, kind of darker line around the image. I think I might go up here and extend that defining line around her headdress. And it'll kind of match her the lines I used around her body. Here. I think that looks better. And those lines seem to bring her forward, bring her up out of the page. I'm not going to use my little squiggly lines that I put around the images in this one. I think it would detract from the bold lines around this figure. So I've decided not to use those lines in here. I'm going to go in and put in a few little white accent lines and lighten the lines on her, or dots on her eyes. And I really like what's happening here in this piece. One thing I do think is I think I need the words in this one. I think. I don't know, what do you think? I think that maybe. Okay, this second layer is gonna cover, I think, cover those letters well enough. Yeah. And all of this embellishment and everything serves to transform these images from what they were to something that's more personal to me. And sometimes we forget about mark making, and you know, those marks all add so much to our pieces. Movements and color and contrast, and also can be repetition. You know, you repeat the same colors throughout the piece, and it seems to lend a cohesiveness to your artwork. And as I look at this, it feels like it's finished. I think I might need a little bit of outlining here on this clock. Just a little bit, not a lot. Just a little bit. Okay. And I think I can just about call this piece done. Brace. The joy. Okay. I'm going to use my medium point for this one. I like to include my word of the year whenever I can in my journal. It seems to add energy to that word. I'm going to call this one complete. I really like the way that the images all came together. I like the way the story came together. I love the fact that this little divine person is down here and she's pointing upwards. I like this ghostly figure in the background. And I like this little bluebird over here bringing the message too of happiness and joy. So I think we're going to call this finished. So I hope you enjoyed this collage with me. It's a little bit different from the mermaid with the darker outlines, and it's a little simpler. Didn't use as many dots in this piece, but I really like it. I like it. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, and many blessings to you. And goodbye for now.